Okay, we're back. And at the break, I was talking about, I know I'm going to probably upset a few people, but...
I'm positive you are.
Someone else told me about this a long time ago, and we were talking about a Second Amendment and the political machine that wants to take away our gun rights, and they try over and over and over again. And the mass shootings that we see are always followed by action of gun rights, okay? And so an actual drug rep who came to my office was into this conspiracy stuff, and I mean, he was literally making my eyes roll because of all this stuff. But he turned me onto a website, sandyhookjustice.org, okay? And I started to watch this, and my mind was actually blown away by what I was seeing. So I don't know how many people out there, and you hear it on the news media, they talk about Sandy Hook. And one of the things that was very interesting about this whole deal is they come up with this hypothesis that no child ever died in Sandy Hook. And you think about that and you think, no freaking way. I mean, it was on the news. It was real. I mean, it was, and President Obama signed all this stuff. I mean, it was just a media fiasco. And it turns out that in this presentation, they actually show the news thing where there's a lady, supposedly a teacher that died. She's not only a teacher there, but she also died in the Boston Marathon. Her picture comes up twice. And the big premise about Sandy Hook is that they take a 16-year-old, wiry, thin, 95-year-old boy, and they put a 45-pound tactical vest on him, loaded up with all kinds of ammunition, boxes of ammunition and guns, and he carries this through a door at an elementary school. Do you know how much that weighs? He carried more than his weight in guns and ammunition into a school. And why did they bulldoze down Sandy Hook Elementary? Do you know it's gone? It was completely bulldozed down, and it was rebuilt because there never was a bullet hole anywhere in Sandy Hook Elementary. It never happened. And why do you cover up such a mistake? And then they go on to talk, it's about Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a UN organization against gun rights. They owned all the mortgages in Sandy Hook were all paid off. Nobody, it wasn't individual families. Somebody else owned all those homes, okay? They actually have footage of these people milling around Sandy Hook. They actually have footage of one of the parents going through this emotional thing. He's laughing, and then basically he then starts to get into this serious mode. It's all acting, and it's all, I mean, they go through the whole thing. I mean, literally, I mean, it's how far to down the rabbit hole you want to go, but it really talks about being able to take the media and place something in there and make it different than what it really is. And that's why I stopped watching, you know, a lot of the news channels, because they're so one-sided, you can't possibly get the truth. And they're protecting the government that exists, and they're in cahoots with the government that exists. And even Fox News is the best of all, but even sometimes I get discouraged with Fox News because
I've seen a shift in Fox News, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that a little bit too. But you know, if you take the time to watch that District of Corruption and watch some of these shows and educate yourself, it's kind of scary, it's kind of bothersome, and I know sometimes ignorance is bliss, but you spread the word to someone else and you spread the word to someone else, and they get themselves educated, and sometimes you want to disbelieve what you're seeing, and how do we know that that's correct versus the other part that's correct? Well, that is a question, that is the number one question, and you know, but you know, the government who wants to control the internet and shut it down, trust me, it is a way to get news that's not mainstream media news, and that's very, very important, is to get your news through and educate yourself and draw, like you said, draw your own conclusions and do your own research. So whenever there's another mass shooting, I get really concerned when I don't see bodies and I don't see the gore. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, this country is based on going to the movies and seeing how many people die and all the blood and gore on the movies. Why would we not show that on the media and the news? What are we protecting? They show boobs sometimes, they show ass sometimes. Why would they not show a dead body on the news? Come on, let's get with it, you know? I mean, that's what we need to see. When I don't see bodies and I don't see blood, I did see it in the Orlando, that was real. Okay, but I had to wonder why the hell, like Trump said, why the hell did it go on for 3 frickin' hours? Okay, I mean, what were they thinking at that particular point? But we have Amy on the phone. Amy? Amy?
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm listening to you, and I agree with everything you say, but I was on Facebook today, and some people were asking or talking about medication, once again, being changed by the pharmacies at Walmart. And I told them to listen to you and to see what you had to say about it and explain to the people that haven't listened to you before that you have different topics. But could you briefly touch on what was going on with the pharmacies and the pharmacists changing prescriptions,
Yes,
how many they get or what they get,
yeah,
and what you're doing to do something about it?
Yes. Okay. So, what I think Amy is talking about is that Walmart had a new pharmacist come in there, and what they're doing is that if I write you a prescription for 150 hydrocodone, oxycodone, any particular product, the pharmacist is unilaterally changing that number to 120. They're telling you we cannot fill more than 120. So the patient is forced to take 120 pills or take their prescription somewhere else to another pharmacy that will fill that. You can't take it to Smith's because they're not taking new customers. CVS is somewhat limited, and they back to Walgreens, who saw all the people leave Walgreens, and now they're coming back to Walgreens getting their prescription filled, and they want you to transfer all your prescriptions back to Walgreens, not just the controlled substance. So what Walmart has done is said, okay, again, the corporate level says you only get 1,000 pills of this, and you get 1,000 pills of this and 1,000 pills of that. So they're rationing medication to the patients without getting approval from the physician to change the number. It is illegal. And if you, the patient, take that and don't complain to the State Board of Pharmacy, it will continue to go on. You have to call the State Board of Pharmacy and you have to say that the pharmacist changed my prescription without getting approval from my doctor. That is breaking the NRS, and that is not correct, okay? And you have the choice to take it somewhere else. And so what these pharmacies are doing, they're just being draconian. They're basically just saying, you will fill this or you will go somewhere else. Well, what are you going to do if you're going to run out of pills tomorrow? You don't want to go take a chance at another pharmacy, so you take the 120 pills, and now you got to come back to the doctor who's got to write you another script for a different amount, and that's what they're doing.
In our practice at the Wellness Center, Mike, some of the stuff that I'm seeing, and I don't prescribe meds. I'm a holistic practitioner, but I have a lot of patients that are on medication. They are on Schedule III medications. They're not pill-seeking patients. They use them the way that they're prescribed. But one of the groups here, which I won't mention, are taking these patients, and I hear this complaint that they are decreasing in half my prescription, and then the following month, cutting it in half again.
Well, I got a letter from the Surgeon General the other day, and it talks about the opioid epidemic, and it talks about the things that we can do as physicians to call turn the tide. And trust me, Amy, there is a lot of diversion out there with medications. I know there is. I see it in my practice. I know that it's a problem, but that's why they've seen a resurgence in heroin, because they've actually cut back on the oxycodone. If you line up 15 people and give them all opioids, there's going to be 2 or 3 of them that are going to get euphoric about it, and they're going to want to repeat that feeling. The population has grown, so therefore the amount of people that can be addicted to a product has grown. Dependency is one thing, addiction is something else. So if you're addicted to a product, you're taking it not as prescribed, you're lying, you're stealing, you're telling your physician, you're selling your drugs. I don't know what you do with them, but you're not taking them. The normal patient always has a little extra pills. They'll stick them up in their cabinet, and I say normal. I just said the people that use them appropriately, that was a bad term, but the non-addicted person. The addicted person will lose their prescription. They will come in with some, bull dung excuse about the dog ate their pills, or they went to a funeral and they left their pill bottle there. Come on, people. I know that's not true. We had another person that said their pills were stolen. And I said, well, you better get a police report. And then the police, it's a paradox, because if you turn it into the police, then the police will arrest you for not taking care of your medication. So, this is a very difficult time, because there are about 40,000 people per year who die of opioid related deaths, and because there's so many of them on the market and a lot of physicians don't completely understand that. I mean, I inherited one patient from another practitioner in town, and the amount of opioid that practitioner was prescribing that patient was way out of limits. You know, when I try and keep my numbers around 150 per patient, you know, as far as what I'm writing, when they go over a certain amount, I become even uncomfortable with that, unless they have a cancer-related diagnosis or something. I mean, we all have to practice best practice, but if you're not, then you're subject to this, and now you're subject to the whims of the pharmacies who are afraid of the DEA coming in there. They tell you the DEA is watching them. They're not. Trust me, the DEA is not watching the pharmacies. That is an absolute lie. I swear my life on it that it's a lie. The DEA doesn't care. The diversion department only wants to know if there's a diversion. And what they used against Walgreens back in 2 or 3 years ago was because they had a 300% increase in their oxycodone. They did a pill mill sting and they found out. And now what they do is they say, well, we have a level. 1,000 of this. So if we never go over this amount, the DEA can never pierce our company veil, and they can never fine us. And they fine Walgreens 80 million, which is a drop in the bucket. Anyway, we're going to go to break, and we're going to be right back and talk about that and other things in the last segment. Thanks for tuning in.